Hello, this is Professor G. Actually, I don't know if I've ever shared how to correctly pronounce my name, but it is Gustincic, which is very difficult to pronounce. It is like this. So Goose, Teen, Cheech, all together. But you don't have to worry about that. You can just call me Professor G. We are in week 3, and this week we're going to talk about conflicts in business. I'll refer to them as partnerships, but I'm not specifically speaking about the business entity of a partnership. I am talking about co-owners of a business. So that's what we're going to focus on this week. Why do partnerships fail? Let's say you have a great friend from college, from work, from wherever, and you decide to launch a business together. One of you wants to really scale the business and take it to a new level. And the other says, you know what, I'm comfortable where we are. I don't want to work any harder. I just want to chill where we're at. That is a difference between vision, growth versus maybe quality of life or something like that. So before you launch into a business with somebody, you have got to decide, are we going the same direction? What's our path? It doesn't have to be identical, but do both of you desire to grow and scale the business? Or do both of you desire to get it to a place where you're making a good income? You're very able to balance life, work, all that stuff. So decide that before you even launch, because that's really the source of the most conflict is two different visions for the future of the business. The other thing is this: one of you brings in the time, your work. Let's say the two of you, one says, okay, I've got $100,000 I can invest in this startup. The other says, well, I'm sorry, I don't have any money, but I can contribute my labor, my expertise. Maybe you're the one who actually knows how to code this new software program or something like that. You have to put that in writing, because I promise you that you will get into a dispute at some point if you do not have that clearly laid out. So sweat equity versus cash contributions. Or let's say we start the business, we're 50-50 in terms of equity. Each of us owns 50%, but we have a hard month, and so I have to put in $20,000 into the business to keep it alive. You need to document that, because that should increase your equity in the business, right? But if you don't document it and you don't agree on it, then it didn't happen in terms of if there is a future split. The other is, how important is your life outside of business? So it's a tough discussion, but it needs to happen. I believe that family should come first. I believe you can be fabulously successful and still put your family first. But some people, may hold opposing views. So you have to ask yourself, where are we in terms of this topic? I'm going to go through this week. You have 4 really short case briefs for your assignment, your challenge, and you get to choose one of the 4 to work on this week. The first one is a coffee shop, and here's the vision class. You've got 2 partners, and their vision class is, I want to grow and scale. I want to get our coffee on the shelf of every Walmart across America. So volume over quality. The other partner says, you know what? I don't really want to be everybody's coffee. I want to have a niche brand that caters to people who really authentically appreciate high quality coffee. The other is this: at the end of the month, you have a significant profit. One says, cool, I get to go buy a new boat, a new car, a new something. The other says, no, let's reinvest that money for our future. You have to be on the same page in that regard. So the clauses that you're looking at here are, how are you going to distribute the profits? How are you going to make decisions? And then how do you get out of the business if you decide you don't want in it any longer? The exit strategy. A lot of difficult conversations in the front. Not difficult, it's really just conversations, but avoids a lot of trouble and a lot of expense down the road. So, case number 2 is a tech startup, the equity distribution fairness. Okay, I invented the tech, but I don't know business, so I want to partner with you. Do I get 70% of the business and you get 30, or is it 50-50? You have to decide that. Coding versus fundraising. You are the business person. You're able to go out and raise money to help us grow the business. And I'm stuck, every Saturday and Sunday all day long writing the code. Are those two valued equally? That's something you have to consider. Here we want an ownership clause. That means who owns the intellectual property. If I wrote the software, I think I should own 100% of it, right? Well, maybe not. Maybe I'll agree to give you 10, 20, 30%, but I want a majority of it. Equity vesting means if I invent the software, I partner with you because you know business, and 8 months later, you basically exit and walk away. Do you own 30% of the business, my software? No. What we typically do as lawyers is we will put in a 2-year vesting requirement that says, okay, I'm giving you 30% of my equity, my ownership of the intellectual property. But if you exit for any reason over the next 2 years, you lose that 30% equity and it comes back to me. It vests at 2 years. After 2 years, it's yours. I can't take it away from you, etc. And then how are we going to settle conflicts or disputes? Family business conflict. Family business is huge. I don't have time to go into it right now, but I teach it, I live it. I work with a lot of family businesses. I have a family business. And essentially here, you're looking at a lot of conflict resolution because you have multi-generations. And some of you might be thinking, well, I'm never going to be in a family business. But here's the thing. If you start your business and you run it for 20, 30 years, wouldn't you love for your family to take it over? So here, conflicts typically arise around tradition versus modernization. So, I imagine that in a lot of family businesses right now, they're having hard discussions about how to incorporate AI. The sibling conflicts doesn't matter. You might laugh at this, but I see 60-year-old siblings who are third, fourth generation business owners. And when they're together, they're still kids. The same conflicts they had at 15, they have at 55, 65, etc. It took me a long time to figure that out, but once I figured it out, I'm like, this isn't really a serious conflict. This is just the way they've always been. And once you gain knowledge of that, things go much smoother. So here, employee morale is hard. You have to be conscious of that because you have employees that are working very hard. They're not related to anyone who is an owner, so they're not technically part of the family business. They work for the family business. And then they see a family business member get promoted up very quickly. We're humans. Are we going to get upset? So you have to be certain that people in the family actually deserve their promotion and that coworkers are conscious of that. So they respect that promotion. So the clauses we're looking at here are succession. Succession means, if my father passes away, what happens to his interest in the business? Responsibilities, the various responsibilities of the family members, and then how do we resolve disputes? Social venture standoff. Social venture would be a nonprofit. It doesn't have to be a nonprofit, it could be a for-profit, but where you place a social good, correcting a social issue before profit, okay? And so here, you could grow. Let's say you want to grow the venture. You have two ways to do that. You could partner with for-profit corporations, or you could stay mission pure, not aligned with for-profit businesses, and simply drive your growth from the mission. That's a discussion you need to have if you're starting a nonprofit or a social mission with a partner, because these are two very different things where you're commingling that nonprofit with a for-profit to get some benefit. You need to always maintain donor confidence. You have to be weary of going too far from the original mission, trying to do too much in too short a period of time. One, that scares investors, and two, it's usually a recipe for failure. So here you want to make sure you stay on mission. You wanted the who makes decisions and donor accountability. Across the four cases, here are the themes. Clear agreements prevent conflicts. Have it in writing, not text, but in writing. Dispute resolution clauses are essential. If we get into a conflict, are we going right to court, which is expensive, or are we going to mediation? I'll talk about that more later. We need to balance personal goals versus the business or venture goals. And we need communication transparency. Everything must be shared. Mediation and resolution strategies. Okay, I'm going to do a completely separate video, short one on mediation, but mediation is an alternative to traditional go to court, I sue you. It's somewhat quicker, a lot less expensive, and a lot less painful. And you can keep it private. So we use mediation before litigation, before we go to court. It creates a win-win solution when possible. The role of a mediator is a third-party independent facilitator to listen to the dispute and suggest alternative solutions, okay, that hopefully are win-win for all parties involved. The mediator will seek to balance fairness with practicality. Can we actually do this? Does it make sense? At the end of the day, we still need a functioning business, right? And they have to protect both the venture and the relationship. I would not want to be a mediator. That's a hard life. But anyways, let's jump into your assignment. Your assignment is to select one of the four cases. You're going to choose, I've uploaded some templates. So if you are forming any type of corporation, choose the corporation bylaws as your template, then pull 3 clauses from there that you think could help in your case. You don't have to rewrite anything. You're literally going to copy and paste into your deliverable those 3 clauses. Explain why they matter, okay? If you are a partnership like an LLC or anything like that, where you've got a bunch of different owners, you're not a corporation, you can do the multi-member LLC operating agreement I provided you. If you have a limited liability company, a smaller company with 2 or more people. If it's just you, well, then it's a single member LLC. You still want those clauses in there because you might add people in the future. So just check those out. I encourage most of you to either use the corporate bylaws or the multi-member LLC. Identify the conflicts within each of these cases. Propose solutions. My closing thoughts: working with other people, going into business with other people requires trust and more so clarity. Okay? We need to have honest, authentic conversations. Conflicts will happen, but they're manageable. It doesn't destroy anything. Agreements and mediation protect both the relationship and the venture in the long term. I hope you have a great week. Thank you.